growling at this man. He's chasing out control. And not the other way around.
That's it, man. Game over, man. Game over.
Please, you can kill it.
Nobody trusts anybody now.
Come on, you hate. You want to live forever?
I got a really bad feeling about this. Godzilla will live.
And welcome back to the 110th episode of the Monster Movie Stompdown. Got your host Sludge here, co-host across from me,
And Lorax.
and the Grandmaster in Texas.
You got Ruben.
And, man, we've got an exciting episode for you tonight. Go ahead and let you all know ahead of time there is no trivia tonight because we've kind of got a bigger episode to dive into as we are covering Kamen Rider Black Sun. Now, this is a 10-episode series we're going to drop into, but there's a little bit of history we need to build into going into it. But before we get started with this one, how are you guys? How are you, gentlemen?
I'm good. Real good.
You got a crap-eating look on your face.
Well,
I can already tell. We already know because we started before the show,
Yeah,
but that's just it's firing you up.
Yeah, I just knew that we didn't need to pre-show talk about anything. We just need to talk about it once the show got started.
Yeah,
Because you say all kinds of things, and and I know how you are. When the show starts, it changes.
It doesn't change.
Yeah, I see how that
It stays the same.
I mean,
so we know we've told you before. There's plenty of banter that happens before the show and after, and things were getting a little out of control before we hit record, or we hit record. It's actually on film. Whether or not I release it to the public.
That's the thing, Mark. He's the one that edits it. So he can edit anything he wants. Anything he says, he can twist it around.
Exactly.
Do a deep fake on it. And do whatever he wants.
I mean, I could. I don't, but I mean, I could. I mean, very easily.
Yeah.
I keep this. I keep this. Yeah, it's good.
Raw and unedited.
Raw and unedited as best as possible. So we were having some fun before the show. We had to pick out a few things. We are the Monster Movie Stompdown, and I've got my Godzilla shirt on, and Grandmaster, he's got his on.
He does, and that's a great shirt, by the way. That is a great shirt, by the way.
This was my Father's Day gift.
I like it.
Yes. Yeah, Father's Day gift from
RJ. Yeah,
which is awesome. And
go ahead.
Then we got the Lorax,
and
there ain't no monsters on that shirt. I don't see any monsters on that shirt.
Skulls over here.
That don't count.
But I'm supporting my brothers in the protest.
Monsters of Rock. You got
Monsters
there we go.
Of Rock. There we go. Yeah. In which exactly brought up Sarge from the protest on how you stabbed him in the back.
I didn't stab him.
By not.
I agree.
And me and Ruben both agree. The creature from the Black Lagoon. For the Friday night fights, 2 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. And was definitely the best choice. And it.
I agree.
We know it.
Look, it is again, where this go around of the Friday night fights is movie versus movie. We're not doing monster versus monster.
Exactly.
If I'm picking monster versus monster, I would go creature. Okay, I love him nostalgically. That's the monster I would pick. He's more brutal, I think, than the creature in the shape of water. I mean, he kills more people. He's just a freaking beast. He's more primal.
Yeah.
But we're basing it on movie versus movie. And I have to, man. Shape of Water, man. I'm sorry. I mean, somebody's got to speak the truth, I mean,
listen to him, Sarge.
John the Baptist got his head cut off for doing it. And if I got to get my head chopped off, I guess so. The Shape of Water is better than Creature from Black Lagoon.
Now he's a saint.
Oh, yeah.
Now he's a martyr.
Yeah, where did that come from?
Now he's a martyr and a saint.
Where did that come from?
My goodness, what the heck?
Just had to make my point and go get it across there.
Yeah, let's throw John the Baptist in there. They'll be on my side. They'll be on my side.
Yeah, exactly. So
now he's saying that when Mary came to visit Jesus, that he leaped for joy. I guess he did.
Yes,
you would leap for joy for Jesus, so not to get too religious.
That's because they were talking, going, "Hey, look, man, one day there's going to be 2 creature movies, and
yeah.
Now they weren't. I got to be careful what I'm saying there.
Yeah.
We get a little too far.
I know. Yeah, I got to watch out.
Yeah. Mark's rocking the protest, and I love the boys in protest. Obviously, I was part of the protest for a long time. And yeah, Sarge, if you watch this, I picked Shape of Water over Creature because the movie.
Boy, it was
And
bad.
I even in the comments says, "Where's Sarge when you need him?" And he was nowhere to be
Oh, yeah.
found.
I know. Well, that shows how much Sarge cares about Creature. I thought, I'm calling you out, Sarge. I thought
Lordy.
you loved Creature from Black Lagoon. It's supposed to be your favorite. You couldn't even come to
Well,
defend it.
and I'm looking at your shirt, okay?
Yeah.
And Godzilla supports the protest. That's a left-handed guitarist right there.
Oh, crap, it is.
It is. He backs Sarge.
It
See?
is.
He does his stuff right there.
Look, me and
Yeah.
Godzilla's going to have a talk about his opinions on Sarge. So, all right.
Which in turn probably means that Godzilla would have picked the Creature from the Black Lagoon.
That's right. I
Yeah.
would
No,
agree.
that
with
all-
that.
he would have just ate
that
them
all
for
runs
lunch.
right there
They'd
together.
have been snacks he's digging out of his teeth. Is what
Oh,
those would have been. So, all right, this one, man, we have got Kamen Rider Black Sun, and we're super excited about this one. This was our first, as a show, jump into the tokusatsu realm, specifically the Henshin type shows, and we'll dive into that in a moment. But I know this was your all's first time watching a show like this, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
So you're first. Ruben, you're first.
Yeah, the closest thing is the original Ultraman. That's the only thing I could compare it to. Which
That
is not.
yeah.
It's not. I mean, it's kind of sort of like that, but not really. But
Yeah, the
yeah.
original Ultraman. I mean, it's a tokusatsu show, but these type of shows like Kamen Rider, like I said, is a Henshin style tokusatsu, and you got the Power Rangers, Beetleborgs, that type of deal. So Henshin is the Japanese word for transform. So these are heroes that would transform into something to become. Well, technically, Ultraman does, I guess, but it was never for some reason.
Well, no, but
considered-
he's always Ultraman, right? Ultraman.
Yeah. I mean, because you got
Yeah.
you
in
got
the
two
original
beings
anyway.
in
Like
one.
I said, in the original.
Yeah, so because you got Ultraman is his own being, and then so he joins with a human counterpart. So yeah, there's no
Right.
transformation. It's just him taking
Yeah.
over type deal, becoming Ultraman because he is constantly living. Where these, it's a transformation. So, yeah. So this is our kickstart into it, and Kamen Rider Black Sun is actually the 50th anniversary project. It came out last year on Amazon for the 50th anniversary for Masked Rider or Kamen Rider Black and Black RX, the continuing series. And so for the 50th anniversary for it, because Kamen Rider Black was so popular when it came out, they decided to redo the show. Bigger budget, aimed more for a mature audience because they weren't expecting kids to watch this. They were expecting more of the adults at this. At this point, the people who watched the original Kamen Rider Black Sun, or Kamen Rider Black and Black RX are adults now. You know what I mean? So they made it more towards them. So that's what it's for, and it is a fantastic show. And just so you guys get a taste of it, here's the trailer.
平等な権利を勝ち取るべきじゃないのか
Kaizen as a human as I am.
Nobuhiko. まさか生きていたとはね。
怪人にしてやる。いつ見てもしびれるな。人間が怪人になる瞬間は。
許さん。
怪人が怪人のまま生きられる世界のために私は永遠に戦うから
お前らに見せ物以外の価値があるのか。
怪人はね人間じゃないんですよ
俺たちは怪人で人間なんだよ。
蘇生を俺が殺す。
Okay, so that's a trailer for Kamen Rider Black Sun, and again, this is the 50th anniversary project for Kamen Rider Black. So let's go back a little bit because we've talked about this before. We got Power Rangers, we've got Ultraman, we've got Beetleborgs, VR Troopers. You got all these different shows. Masked Rider which is Kamen Rider. Kamen Rider is a Japanese word for mask. Started it all. Now, television-wise, Ultraman was first, but Ultraman did not come first. Kamen Rider came first. Kamen Rider came out. It was a manga, an insanely popular manga, actually originally called Skullman by, I can't remember his name. Skips me. Anyways, so he writes it, and after the success of Ultraman, their approach to do Kamen Rider as a series, and so they do. And so the original Kamen Rider show comes out in 1971, and is absolutely freaking huge. And just keeps going. Unlike Ultraman, which Ultraman did see a time frame after Ultraman 80 to Ultraman Tiga, where there was kind of a disappearance, of Ultraman on TV. You had tons of reruns, but no new shows for like a decade or so. That has never happened with Kamen Rider. Kamen Rider has been consistent in popularity and has never slowed down. And as they're 40 shows deep or something like that now, and movies, and actually so popular that actually Kamen Rider and Ultraman even crossed universes in a film. So you got a film with them in it together, which is pretty cool. So it started back in 1971, and you've got Kamen Rider V3, all these different shows that come out. The Kamen Rider Black comes out and was hugely successful, and was the first Kamen Rider series to be followed up by a direct sequel series, which is Kamen Rider Black RX, which did even better. And so the 50th anniversary, they want to do something different. Obviously, we've got the Shin Kamen Rider movie that just came out as a kind of a remake of the original Kamen Rider. But Kamen Rider Black Sun was a 50th anniversary release for this show and a reboot of the series. And it's absolutely fantastic. It was directed by Kazuga Shirashi. And actually, he approached Shinji Higuchi, who has done the Shin trilogy, Shin Godzilla, Shin Ultraman, Shin Kamen Rider, because of his love for Kamen Rider, to see if he'd come on and do special effects. So Higuchi actually oversaw the special effects for the series. He brought in special effects director Kiyotaka Taguchi to handle the special effects. So the special effects crew for this, the reason why it's really, really good is you've got the master behind it with Shinji Higuchi. And so this show, it gets really, really deep, man. So the main characters in this, of course, is Kamen Rider Black Sun, and then his brother, who is known as Shadow Moon, and their names. You got Kotaro, who is Kamen Rider Black Sun, and you got Nobuhiko, who is Shadow Moon. The show starts off seeing them as little kids in like a government facility, and it's pretty graphic show. They are being turned into the Kamen Riders at this point when they're young children. They're like maybe 8 years old or so. And you come to find out in the show that the scientists who are turning them into Kamen Riders with these things called Kingstones, there's 2 of them. They are cutting the boys up and inserting these into them to turn them into the Kamen Riders. Happens to be their fathers. So they're not blood brothers, but they grew up together. They were born on the same day, same time, same hospital during a solar eclipse or a black sun is when they were born. They were born when something called the Creation King was created. Now, what you have here is you've got a government program that's being overseen by a prime minister back in the 70s named Donami, who has these scientists, again, the fathers of Kotaro and Nobuhiko, creating a weapon for the Japanese government. And they find these things called Kingstones. There's 2 of them, and they use them to create, with the genes of a grasshopper, what is known as the Creation King in this. And the Creation King is pretty much uncontrollable and unstoppable. They do find a way to stop this thing and kind of imprison it almost. And as you go forwards into 1972, the Donami is still overseeing this project, and you now have what's called Kaijin, which are these people who are humans that can turn into monsters, animals-type monsters. That's all come from out of this government program. And they eat a drug called Heaven, which is actually created from an enzyme made from Creation King. And then you've got this group of people who come together to try and stop the segregation between the Kaijin and the human, because this has a very social political message in this movie when it comes to separation of. I mean, it's of races pretty much is what you're dealing with. But so you've got the humans versus the Kaijin, and you've got humans that believe Kaijin are just as much human as they are and deserve to be every part of society. You've got people who don't like Kaijin at all and think they need to be exterminated. And so you have this group called Gorgum that gets started in 72 that involves Kotaro and Nobuhiko. They become part of Gorgum along with several other characters, and I had to write their names down because there's a lot. You got Darum, Bishium, Balsam, Bilginia, Oliver, and Yukari. And the whole point of this organization at first is to stop the segregation between the Kaijin and the humans. But it goes deeper than that because this group, Gorgum, end up stealing the Creation King. And Yukari lets it be known to Kotaro and Nobuhiko, again, this is 1972, that they need to kill the Creation King. And they decide that they're going to with her. They're going because if they kill the Creation King, they can't continue to artificially make Kaijin. And what Kaijin are alive will get to live full lives and be part of society. And that's the dream and the goal is to fight for those Kaijin forever, but not create any new ones. And then you jump back to present day. Present day, Kotaro looks a little older. This is 50 years later. He walks around with a limp, and he goes around and pretty much beats the crap out of people. He lives on a bus to make money. Kind of like somebody owes a pool shark money, and he's the guy who goes and gets the money, beats the crap out of him, and then he gets the money. They give him a cut of it, and he goes and he buys drugs because he's addicted to drugs because of the pain in his leg. Which you come to find out the reason why his leg is jacked up is because Creation King severely broke his leg in 72 when he tried to kill the Creation King. And he gets a ticket to go and find this girl named Aoi to kill her. And this is the first time he's had to kill somebody, in this state, at this time. And he goes to kill Aoi, but while this happens, Gorgum, which is still around, Nobuhiko has left Gorgum, send a Kaijin to kill her instead. And as he goes to try and kill her, he sees that she happens to be wearing one of the Kingstones, which happens to be the Kingstone that was used to create him. And so he decides not to kill her, instead save her. Those two become the main characters with Nobuhiko. Of course, he just annihilates this freaking spider Kaijin very quickly because he can transform into Kamen Rider Black Sun. Like I said, then the Kamen Riders, Nobuhiko and Kotaro, are on a far superior power level than regular Kaijin. They're just not even close. The only ones that come even close to them is the leaders of Gorgum, which is Darum, Bishium, and Barum, are who run it. But at this point, Gorgum is in cahoots with Donami's grandson, the original prime minister from the beginning, and they are using the Creation King to create this drug heaven, to sell it and get rich. So, you've got this drug plot going on on top of all the social political issues. And so it's up to Kotaro, Aoi, and Nobuhiko to stop all of this, to stop the prime minister and Gorgum from creating this drug. Their goal is to create a new Creation King because the original one's dying, and they tried to stop it. And it's just full on. It is super deep show. They end up in the climax, killing the Creation King. Kotaro does by ripping its heart out. It's freaking, it's so intense. But throughout this, Nobuhiko and Kotaro come at odds and see a different vision for the future of Kaijin and mankind. And it causes a rift between them, and they fight each other, ultimately to the death of one of them. And it's an insanely intense fight sequence. It's super amazing. And before Nobuhiko dies, because obviously our hero's got to live, he rips his Kingstone out of him and gives it to Kotaro. And so Kotaro has both of their Kingstones. And at this point, Kotaro becomes the new Creation King. And then it's up to Aoi to kill the Creation King, but move the fight forwards. So a super great show, man. This is a deep show for a tokusatsu show. This is one of the deepest there is when it comes to story and plot. But they managed to get a lot in 10 episodes. So let's go for it, man. Let's run around the table and see what everybody thought. Ruben, it has been a minute since you started. Since this was your first go around of a tokusatsu show, what did you think of Kamen Rider Black Sun?
Okay, well, let me start off with a disclaimer. All right.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, like all the shows that you mentioned, except for Ultraman, the original Ultraman, like Power Rangers, I didn't grow up watching those. By the time they, like Power Rangers, by the time they came out, I was already an adult, or 20, 21 years old. So Power Rangers is beyond my scope. I never watched it. The only thing I know is when RJ would watch it with my nephew. They would watch it together, and You can ask them a bunch of stuff about it, and they know. So I didn't grow up. This wasn't part of my childhood. This type of show, other than the original Ultraman. So watching this made it. It was a little bit more difficult watch for me than maybe it was for Sludge or for Mark, because first of all, the story's so deep, and I had to read the subtitles. It would have been way easier, even if I would have had bad dubbing. It would have been easier for me because, like you were just saying, they each had stones in them, but then you're saying those stones that were the king stones were outside. I mean, I thought it was a whole different set of stones inside of that they put in their abdomen. It looked like they did.
Yeah,
right?
in their abdomen. Yeah. No, so
there's two stones in there, and then there's the king stones, and then there's king stones in them too.
No, the king stones are what was used in them, but somehow, and they don't actually explain it in the show.
Yeah,
Kataro's is removed at some point because AOE has Kataro's king stone, but Nobuhiko's king stone he has. I mean he can obtain.
But then they're hunting for it, and then one of them, that prime minister, had it, right?
Yeah,
and then they have they have two kings.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah. So Nobuhiko got his king stone back from Danami.
Okay, and so what got me and what made this a difficult watch for me is the actual story, because I'm like, well, what is that prime minister doing with that stone? I thought it was inside one of them two dudes, and I'm like, man, I don't know what's, and I just, the story was jagged because you find out eventually how he got the stone, but like for half the show, I'm like, wait a minute, how does this guy have this, and why is this guy got this, and why, and it was kind of confusing. The story was confusing to me because it was so jagged. You know what I'm saying? In other words, they'd go to the past, but they still wouldn't explain what was going on in the present. And to me, that was confusing. And of course, like I said, I'm not a sophisticated man, so the subtitles were a little bit tough for me. But now to the positive things, we were texting back and forth, and I thought like the first 6 episodes, I'm like, I'm going to tell you, it was at a 2 rather than where I ended up. It was low because even though the special effects were good, the story was all right. I just felt the story was too jagged. But then when all the pieces of the puzzle started coming together, that's when I started enjoying the show. And so much that I didn't even need to know what the subtitles were saying, because I knew what was going on just by what was going on the screen.
Right.
So it was a little bit easier to follow because I knew what was going on. Okay. He was in love with her, and then they kill her. So now he wants to get revenge, and and you had all this stuff going on. And like, I'm like, why does she have a stone around her neck? These two dudes had it. Now I found out how they, somebody else ended up with the stones. Right. And, but one thing you left out too was kind of weird is they need humans to make that. You called it heaven, but it's also called heat heaven.
Heat heaven.
I heard them call it heat heaven, but apparently they need humans to make that, because I know there's one scene they say they need humans to make it.
Yeah,
so they got to kill humans to make it.
Yeah, so they've got humans in prison that they're killing, homeless people mostly, because they use some of the genetics or the genes of a human mixed with the enzyme of
the creation
king to create heat heaven.
And then and so this is more of me just asking questions to clarify everything. so a creation king is a giant cricket, is what he looks like.
He is. So Creation King, when you first see him in the show, he's normal sized, like a human sized character, and he is a prisoner of war that they had used, Kotaro and Nobuhiko's fathers, under Danami's program to create a biological weapon. Is what turned him into Creation King. But as he aged, he continued to grow, and he's just, and because he's made from a grasshopper, he's like a massive grasshopper.
Oh, yeah. He's like Boba Fett size by the time he's dying already. I guess he's dying of old age or whatever.
When they've sucked all that enzyme out of him too.
They took all that enzyme out of him. Yeah, that's true. So that was kind of like, okay. So I'm like, how do they decide what animal they, like, she was like a squid or something, right? A little girl.
So AOE was a mantid. She was a mantis.
A mantis.
So with the Kamen Rider, the original one, he was made from the genetics of a grasshopper. And then the other Kaijin and monsters through the series are made from different animals.
Yes.
Okay, so that there, see that. So when I'm watching this, I don't understand. I'm like, okay, so how did they decide what animal? They just randomly, because they turned her into one.
Yeah.
And they made her a mantis. I'm like, well, so they use DNA or they use genetic material of a mantis to create her.
Yeah. So when you're watching the scene where they actually kidnap Aoi and turn her into a kaijin, you'll see for a second they drop and you'll see a mantis falling in the tube of liquid.
Okay.
And that's what they use. Yep.
You see, but all in all, now back to the story, once it started falling, I mean, it's a good story. My complaint is, it's not really a complaint. I just wish they would have ordered it a little bit easier for us dumb guys that don't watch as much as much of this kind of material as there is. So, but it was good. I liked the special effects were excellent. I thought the different creatures brought an extra element to it that I really enjoyed. But I was curious how they, well, how do they do it? Like, because they would recruit, right? They were actively recruiting. It seemed like,
yep,
right. So, like, if I'm recruiting, I'm like, so what do you want to be? We can make you whatever you want to be, and let them pick what animal they wanted to transform into. Because one of the teenagers, he wanted to be one, and they told him no at
Nick
first.
Does. Nick
wants to be one. They told him no, you can't do it, and then he ends up being one. And also, that it was very interesting how they put in that, social political thing into it. There's a whole group of people that are just totally against them. They just don't want them in their country, and they don't, but they all used to be human at one time,
yeah, well, most of them, because because they can breed. Obviously, you got Aoi's best friend, Shisunki,
right?
In it, he's a bird. He was born a kaijin, because his parents were turned into kaijin, and so he was born naturally into one.
Oh, he was born. That those are all like questions that a novice like me, I needed that answered. I needed that explained to me. So I think this series was made for somebody who's already a fan.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, it's already a fan, already knows the background, already knows the history. Because this is a remake, so they already know that. So, but for somebody like me who's watching it, it was I had to really pay attention and rewind and read the subtitles 2 or 3 times to figure out what was going on. So, although it's a good series and I would recommend it for anybody, I would recommend that you bone up on the, I guess the history of this whole thing, because there's a lot there. And I know that this is a remake, right, of the original Black?
Yes.
Is that correct? Yeah,
Yep.
The original Black. I read that. So I had to go back and do a lot of reading to try to make things to make sense for me. And once I did the reading and I was able to do that. And also, I guess, this is my own fault, I thought we were recording last week, so I watched all 10 in like 3 days.
Yeah, real quick.
I think I started on Friday.
Yeah.
I watched like 3 on Friday. I watched 3 on Saturday. And then I watched the rest on Sunday. So I watched them very quickly.
Hey, if it makes me better, my first go around, because this time I watched it with Gavin, and this was actually my 4th go around on these 10 episodes. When it first dropped in October of last year, I watched it. And, of course, they dropped them all at once. I watched all 10 episodes over a weekend, like 2 days. I hammered through it. So
yeah. So, I mean, and that has its advantages, because you don't get time to step away and then try to get back into it and to figure out what was going on.
Right.
But,
yeah, and you guys were kind of freaking out, thinking, "Oh, he'll never get him in." And you're talking about me. I'll never get him in. I'm never get him in.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I'm just waiting for episode 10. That's the one I got left. And Ruben didn't understand. He was like, "Oh man, you got a busy day ahead of you." I was like, "No,
because
I'm
gonna watch it today." That's all it said in the message. I'm gonna watch it today. He didn't say he's gonna, but then, of course, Sludge had said that that he watched it and his young one cried.
Yeah.
Man.
Which it is a sad ending, because
it is.
Somebody who was fighting so hard not to become the Creation King became the Creation King in the end.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, and that was pretty sad. And of course there was a connection there.
Oh yeah, I mean, especially that moment, man, like because Gavin cried twice. The first time he thought Kotaro died, which he didn't, because Kotaro's freaking bad. He's a freaking beast.
Yeah.
But the moment where Kotaro actually dies after he becomes the Creation King, and he's sitting there with Aoi, and Aoi comes to kill him, and there's such that connection between him and Aoi that builds throughout the show. And then, and there's that moment earlier on where she's like, you're going to have to teach me how to fight. And he shows her this one specific move.
Yeah.
And then when you get to the end, he walks off to her, and she just turns her back to him and sets up that move he taught her. And then it starts flashbacking between the earlier episode where he's teaching her and then where they're at in the moment.
Oh, yeah.
And she has to kill him. And, dude, you see Gavin's face, man. Like, Gavin's like, he's holding it in. I'm like, dude, it's cool, man. You can let it go. And he just freaking loses it, man. Like, he's like this, because
it is an emotional scene. It is, and like I said, the final 4 episodes made up for my critique for the first 6, that I watched. After that, I mean, it got like, I remember when I got to episode 9, it was like 1 or 2 in the morning. And I said, man, should I just go ahead and watch it? And I said, no, I gotta go to bed. I gotta go to bed. And I went to bed. So that's one of my, the way I know a show is good is if I can't stop watching it. And it gave me that toward the end. The last 4 episodes, I wanted more every time I finished one episode. Yeah. And, would push, even though I was tired, I wanted to push through because I wanted to watch another episode. So, all in all, I gave it a good rating because I thought, even though I never watched Power Rangers, it had that Power Rangers vibe, but I remember, I'd pass by and they'd be sitting there watching it and they loved it. Kids loved it. So I can see, and matter of fact, I called my nephew and I asked him about it. He's an adult now. And I asked him about it. He goes, oh yeah. He goes, I heard that was pretty good. And then he started talking to me about it. So he helped me out with this episode too. His name's Patrick, and he's all about that. He's all about Gundams and Transformers and Power Rangers and all that good stuff. So, we talked about it and he kind of explained some things to me too. So, all in all, I think it's a very good show. I would highly recommend it, though it is pretty graphic and it's pretty bloody.
It is.
So, it is. So, depending on what you allow your kids to watch or not watch, I suggest watching the first 2 episodes, and then you can kind of gauge it from there and see because there's beheadings and there's all kinds of stuff.
Oh definitely.
Yeah. It's pretty intense, but if, every kid's different, RJ would watch the censored Halloween, the original Halloween. I let him watch that because they took out all the scenes that all the nudity and all that when you watch it on cable or whatever. So I let him watch that and he loved it, because, the original Halloween's not that bad once you step back and look at it.
Yeah, it's same.
That was me.
I was even hesitant with Gavin at first because there's some Kamen Rider shows that get even more brutal than this. He's like, oh, can I go watch it or watch it, Dad? I'm like, no, not yet. But so last year, or earlier this year, we finally let him watch Prey, the newer Predator film. And so I was like, okay, so if you can do Prey, well, I'll let you do Kamen Rider Black Sun. You know what I mean? I was like, I think you can do that. So, which was
and then it starts out right there at the very beginning. In that first episode, man, you get your dose of it because I'm and you had made comments to me about episode 5, so I'm thinking that what happened at the beginning, I'm thinking at episode 5, and in episode 1, I'm like, oh my lands, this thing's out of control.
Oh yeah, I remember Gavin sitting there, and so when Kataro goes to kill Aoi, decides not to, and that spider kaijin stabs that his leg into his back or of Kataro, and Kataro just transforms and rips that thing's legs off during the transformation, and immediately just punches into his stomach and just rips his intestines out.
Oh yeah,
Gavin was like, "Whoa!" I was like, "Yeah, this is going to get a little wild, Gavin."
Yeah,
but it was good.
Ruben, sorry, you were
but yeah, no, that's fine. But all in all, I would, like I said, I think. I don't know. How old is Gavin?
Gavin's 9.
He's 9 now. I was going to say about 10 years old or so, then you might consider it. Parents' choice on that one. But it's a very good story. And I think you mentioned it. I don't know we said it on the podcast or not. But if you want your kids to read, this kind of show is great because they have to read the subtitles, and if they get into it,
because Gavin followed right along. Gavin didn't miss a beat, man.
Yeah, and that's a real good practice. I remember when I was man, we had so much trouble with RJ getting him to read. He hated it. I used comic books to get him to read, to get interested in reading books or whatever.
Yeah.
So I said, man, you know what? I'm going to try comics. And that worked, and then he got interested in reading, and we just wanted him to read.
Right.
That's what we're trying to get him to enjoy reading. And this kind of show will do that because especially, I think even though there's a lot of blood in it, I still think it's still geared toward, I would say the tweens and all that. I think it's geared toward that. There's no love story or nothing like that, but I think it's still geared enough for kids. This show, even though I think you mentioned earlier, it's made for, though I said it, it's made for somebody who already have watched maybe the original,
right?
So they already know the mythos of it all. But no, I did enjoy it. I gave it a I would say a little bit above average rating, but it was great, and I would recommend it. And that's all I got. I'll hand it to one of you guys.
All right, right on. Well, Mark, let's let you jump to it, man.
Well,
you guys are the first time
I am right in there with Ruben. I mean, I'm pretty much thinking, yeah, I agree, and because it does start off a little bit slow, and you're trying to figure out who's who, and then you got to throw, well, we're in the past, we're in the present, and you're jumping back and forth, and so once you get that kind of down pat, what's going on, who is the characters in it, then it just then you're in it, then you're buckled in, and it's a very, very good series. I mean, the story, the plot, everything is just great. The action in it is great, dude. When he pulls himself off, when he's impaled there at the very end, and when he Karatu, is that how you say it? Kataro. I mean, when he pulls himself off that, you're just like, oh my land, the adrenaline gets
in that
flowing.
moment, because Nobuhiko, he stabs him through the stomach, into that wall, and then Nobuhiko drills him, and he just turns sideways. He's hanging sideways.
You think he's done, man?
Yeah.
He's done. It's over.
Yeah, that's when Gavin first started crying.
Yeah,
because he was like, he's dead, Dad. He's dead. And I kept going, nah, remember, dude, Kataro's bad. Just give it a second. Because I already seen it 3 times. And then when he starts talking, and Gavin's like, he grabs my arm, he's like, Dad, is he coming off of that? Is he alive? I'm like, yeah, watch. And so he stands back up with the sword there, and Gavin's thinking he's going to pull it out. And he's like, this is going to be great. But instead, he just walks it through.
That was
like,
just,
oh my God.
That was just fantastic. And it's really, and like I say, I really agree with what Ruben was talking about, because you do walk away wanting more. When it's finally said, when it's done, you get down to the end. It's like, dude, I don't want this to stop. This is good. This is very good. And you get over the Japanese and reading words, and you get past all that, because you do get so into the characters and so into the story that you kind of quit reading that stuff, because you can tell what's going on. You know who's what and who's doing everything. And to me, as far as this series goes, couldn't have ended any better than it did.
No, there's no way.
I mean,
there was a good ultimate ending there.
Oh, it was, and I think it is a must see, especially that anybody that gets into these type of series, you just got to see it, because it's fantastic. And once you start, don't stop. Just keep it going, because it is going to end great. Yeah. So I'm a thumbs up on it.
I can't wait for I guess they're going to do a Shin, right? They're going to do a Shin.
Well, they did Shin Kamen Rider, which just is the movie that just came out, and actually it's streaming. Well, because I went to the theaters to see Shin Kamen Rider a couple weeks ago, because it came out here in America for one day only, and I was like, dude, I'm not missing this. You know what I mean? Because I loved what Higuchi and them did with Shin Godzilla. I loved Ultraman, honestly, even more than Shin Godzilla. And I walked out of the theaters. I know it's still got like an 86% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, but I walked out of Shin Kamen Rider, and I was like, dude, I called my wife, and she's like, well, how is it compared to, because she knew that the same guy did the other two. I've seen all 3 in theaters now. She's like, well, how was it compared to the Ultraman and Godzilla one? And I was like, superior. Shin Kamen Rider was freaking unbelievably good. Like, it's better than this show. Like, it's better than Black Sun, but it's a remake of the original Kamen Rider.
Right.
You know what I mean? Where this
And I just saw some publicity. I saw some publicity shots of it. You know how they reenacted the original, and then and it was almost identical.
Oh, dude, that was a cool thing too. And I'm glad you brought that up, because when it comes to this show, is that in Shin Kamen Rider, the opening sequence is literally shot for shot from the first episode of the show. And when you go through and you sit through the credits, okay, and if you will sit through the credits, there's no after credit scene like Marvel does. But what they do is they put the original scene from the original show at the end of the credits, and you could see parallel side by side, shot for shot, the new versus the old, which was really freaking cool.
Yeah.
In this one, in Kamen Rider Black Sun, and of course, I'll talk about the music in a second, because I want to make sure you've said everything you wanted. But the episode 10, the final episode, the intro changes, because in the beginning, you get part of the story. You don't really get an intro, sequence. In episode 10, you get an intro sequence. That intro sequence is a remake of the original intro sequence to Kamen Rider Black. That is shot for shot how Kamen Rider Black started, but it's the new guy. You know what I mean? It's the new, that's why you get, that's the original bike. That's the original theme music. That's the original, shots of what he's doing. So which is really freaking cool, I think.
That's great. Keep going. You don't stop. I am good.
Okay. Well, I mean, this is fantastic. Ruben, do you want to add to that? I'm sorry.
No. Okay. I just go ahead.
I love this show, dude. Like, of course, I've been a tokusatsu fan and a Henshin fan since I was a little kid. You got me introduced to this stuff. Obviously, Godzilla first. But then you opened my eyes to Ultraman when, what was it? We went to Nashville or somewhere, and we went to the mall, and I found Ultraman Great on VHS. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that's when we found out, Ultra 7 plays Saturday mornings or Monday through Friday at 6 a.m. on TNT. And I was like, I got to see this crap. You know what I mean? And that's what kicked me open into this as a kid. So what really blew the doors wide open for me was G-Fest. My first G-Fest, when I went as a kid, I was finally at a place where I had access to get these things. And that was, either what was there or Video Dai Kaiju. I was able to start ordering these things. And of course,
boy, did you. You
gosh.
Definitely did. Once you found out, it was on.
I was like, people were like, oh man, Power Rangers, which I love Power Rangers. But I found out very quickly that's just it's an Americanized version of Sentai Ranger.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I need to see Sentai Ranger, dude. Because we got Power Rangers in the late 90s, but Sentai came out in the 70s. You know what I mean? We're seeing the footage of the Red Ranger and Green Ranger in the 90s. That crap was shot 2 decades prior. You know what I mean? So I was like, I wanted to see all the original stuff. So for me, I'd already been kicked into this world for a while. I'd seen the original Kamen Rider Black. I'd already seen the Black RX. And even the odd stuff, they actually did the new Shin Kamen Rider movie is not actually the first Shin Kamen Rider movie. There was one that came out in 94, I think. They tried to do a reboot of it, which was much more organic of a movie, much more horror movie. I mean, it's a graphic, brutal horror film, I would call, not a tokusatsu superhero film by any means. It would be straight horror, not superhero. So I've been doing it for a while. And, of course, I'm used to the subtitles and things. And so when I found out they were doing Black Sun, man, I was pretty stoked. And because Amazon had teamed up with Subaraya and did Ultraman Orb as an Amazon original. So the Ultraman Orb Origins they did as Amazon, and they did fantastic with it. So when I found out they were bringing Kamen Rider Amazon, I was like, dude, I'm down. Let's do this. Saw the trailer, fantastic. And then the show came out, and, dude, for me, it hit the ground freaking running. And of course, I watched the movies like Memento or, the Nolan stuff where you do get a lot of back and forth time framings. I watched tons of, most of what I watch is foreign films anyways. So I'm used to the subtitles. To me, I don't have to, I've just got to a point where I see the whole scene and can read the subtitles at the same time because I've been doing it since I was 8 years old. And I'm, for 30 years. So that doesn't cause me any hindrance, so I'm able to enjoy these things from the ground running with no hindrances whatsoever like that. And I was already pumped and stoked for this one. And, dude, they knocked it out of the park, from the word go. And I felt they handled it greatly. I mean, you start with the protest between the Kaijin and the human factors that are against the Kaijin. and you get the guy, that one kaijin freaks out, then that dude, the human cop freaks out and shoots and kills him. And you're like, especially in the world today that we live in.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, whoa. You know what I mean? Like, it jumps deep. Like, it lets you know from the get-go, this is going to be a deep, deep show.
Yes.
And then, you see, well, I'm sorry, it actually starts with Kotaro and Nobuhiko as kids screaming as they're being turned into these. Because that scene, and I will say, spoiler alert, you do get to see that happen in a later episode, them being turned into Kamen Rider. And it's freaking intense. That was the one moment in the series where I turned to Gavin. I said, "Hey, dude," we paused it. I said, "This might get a little rough, so if it does, and you want me to fast forward, you let me know." And of course, he toughed it through. He's like, "Man, those kids are great actors. I can't believe because man, that looked rough." But to me, this show is fantastic. And of course, when it comes to especially Kotaro, Kamen Rider Black Sun, okay, the actor is that's Hidetoshi Nishijima. Hidetoshi is a familiar face for anybody that's gotten into this stuff newer, because he's the captain of the Science Squad in Shin Ultraman. Because even Gavin was like, "Hey, I know him." I'm like, yeah, that's the captain of the Science Squad in Shin Ultraman. So he's a very popular actor, but he's a phenomenal actor. And for him, when you first meet him, which is a little different than what it is, and there's some changes between this show and the original, one of those being Kotaro himself, because he's a drug addict at this point. His leg, when he goes after the Creation King back in 1972, as you see, Creation King jacks his leg up. He ends up cutting his leg off later. You know what I mean? Like, yes. I don't know what the Creation King's deal is about his leg. He just didn't like his leg. Well, you come to find out why. And it's kind of a nod. I don't know if you guys picked it up or not, but there's a reason why that leg is damaged. But he's addicted to drugs, and he's making money by hurting people. That's not who Kamen Rider is. You know what I mean? Like, he's the polar opposite of what Kamen Rider has always stood for. So you come in, and for somebody who's been a fan of Kamen Rider for years, he's very different than what Kamen Rider originally was. So then to see him go from that with Aoi, the introduction of the character Aoi, and change from that back to who he was, back to the hero, back to whatever it takes, was just fantastic. And I don't think anybody could have done it better than Hideyoshi did. He was phenomenal in the character. And Nobuhiko, man, like, he plays, Shadow Moon in the original is the polar opposite to Black Sun. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And he is in this. When we meet Nobuhiko in this one, he's chained up in prison for 50 years because of Gorgum and the Prime Minister. And at first they're kind of together still, but the split between them, and given that backstory, they both fall in love with Yukari back in 1972. So when Yukari dies, it tears them both apart in totally different ways, though. Like, it affects Nobuhiko very differently than it affected Kotaro. And so to see those two together, they're brothers, ultimately, but to see the dynamic between the two of them, is fan-freaking-tastic. And so you get to that point at the end, when those two finally, it comes to a head and they have to go toe-to-toe, it makes it 10 times better. Like, you're invested. It's not just another fight scene in the show. You're invested in this fight.
Oh, definitely.
Like, you're pulling for one or the other, at this point. And it has those moments, man, throughout the show that's phenomenal. I was telling you, episode 5, dude, I kept telling Gavin, I was like, because when you see them transform, the difference between this show and the old show, there's 2 forms to them in this. Okay, you've got the initial transformation of them into Black Sun and Shadow Moon, but then you have their true Henshin transformation, like their full power unlocked, almost the Super Saiyan transformation for Goku, or the Saiyans from Dragon Ball Z. And when that happens in episode 5 with the unbelievably amazing soundtrack this show has one of the best soundtracks ever. Gavin has downloaded the theme song to his phone, and he rocks it every freaking day, dude. And the soundtrack is just perfect. And so when you get that moment in episode 5 where they turn Aoi into a kaijin, where Belginia does, and he's actually beating her up. He doesn't realize it's her.
Oh yeah.
He's ready to kill her. And then he realizes, oh, it's Aoi, and then he freaking flips. Like, Shadow Moon is fighting Belginia, and when he walks out, he's like, back off. Like, I'm like, dude, he's freaking got to kill this guy.
Yeah.
And then that music drops, and you see him for the first time in the show, and it's probably where again, I've seen it before. That whole move that they do.
Yeah,
they've been doing that since '71. That's the move that's done when the Kamen Riders would transform and they would say Henshin, and then you'd see their belt light up,
Right.
And I loved how the belts became an organic part of them that would appear, And so when he goes into that, and I was just like, Gavin, the music's pumped, Gavin's pumping. I'm like, dude, I'm about to lose my mind. This is what's about to happen. And then you see him turn into himself as a Kaijin, but then turn into Kamen Rider Black Sun. I was like, F this, dude. This is, I came unglued. And so did Gavin. Like, we both, it was great to enjoy my son there. We both, this is my fourth time watching it. His first time, we're both coming out of the chair. Like, this is, epic. And then he just wipes the freaking floor with Belginia.
Oh, yeah.
And you think, can't get any more than this because Belginia's got a sword. You're like, how can it get any more intense? Well, he's a grasshopper, and he's got leg appendages that come out of his shoulders into his back. And he rips one out of his own body and turns it into a sword. I'm like, dude, freaking bad. Like, he's just bad. So there's those moments like that they have throughout the show that's absolutely amazing. After Kataro turns into Creation King, and then Aoi shows up, and then when Aoi starts to do the move, when she puts her fist like this, Gavin realized at that moment, he understood what was happening. He's like, whoa, wait, what, Dad? What is about to happen? And then she henshins True Trent, she gets the belt.
Yeah.
And then she turns and she looks different as a mantid. And Dad, he's like, is she the next what? And he's losing his mind, It's like, yeah, dude. I mean, there's those moments throughout the show that's just absolutely epic. They've dropped stuff like that. So to me, the special effects are absolutely fantastic. I mean, it got to be for as brutal as it gets. There's beheadings, there's intestines, there's legs being cut off, body parts being ripped out. It gets really freaking intense, man. And you deal with things like drug addiction, societal, issues you got to deal with, government corruption. There's so much packed into a 10-episode show. But for me, I felt like they handled it extremely well, especially having to go back and forth, 72 to modern day.
Definitely.
And then, phenomenal soundtrack on top of it. And the actors were just phenomenal. That moment, man, like where Belginia turns, I don't want to say turns heel because he's a bad guy, but he goes good. When he realizes they go and meet they actually go and the one thing I do wish they did done differently is they go to see one of the doctors. They go to see Kataro's father, and he's like old and dying in a nursing home.
Yes,
and he explains what really happened, and that because there's the argument that to the Kaijin they don't know, were they just born naturally, how were they created, and it's revealed to Belginia that they were created by the government. That it was,
as weapons,
and that turns everything for him. And then he tells Aoi as they leave, "I'll take you." Where she's got to go.
Yeah.
He's like, "I'll help," and she's like, "No,
I'll
kill you." He was even like, "Okay," because he's like, "I deserve it. I deserve it." And then there's that moment when she reveals this news to the world, and they come after her, and she's on Kataro's bus, and they come after her. You don't get Kataro. You don't get anybody stopping. Konami, none of them. It's Belginia. He shows up and takes on everybody, and he dies. But that whole time, you're just, for the first time, you're like, dude, I've hated you from the word go. Now I'm like, this sucks. You're freaking dying. They did phenomenal with this.
Exactly.
He was the guardian of, wasn't he? He was given that sword to guard
the Satan sword. Yeah,
the Satan sword to guard. To protect the Creation King. So he was like, I would say. I mean, it seemed like. You would think he'd be the one that's in command, but he's not. He's second or third in command, really. He's just more like he's a soldier, is what he is.
Very much so. Very much so.
He's, but he's the protector. And that part really, I'm like, man, he's listening to all that, and you can see the expression on his face changing. I'm like, he's going to turn. He's going to turn, he's not going to be the heel anymore. He's going to turn good, and he's going to start fighting with them. And of course, still, it's going to be them two and him. And I'm like, man, this is going to be awesome. Of course, Shadow Moon ends up changing his mind and going head to head with his. Well, in the original, they're brothers, right? In this one, they're not.
Yeah. Well, they're still looked at as brothers. They call each other brothers, but they're not. They call each other brothers.
They're not actual brothers. So at first, I'm like, man, there's this is going to be epic. And then of course, Shadow changes. Shadow Moon. Am I saying that? Yeah. Is that right? Shadow Moon is changing, and now all of a sudden he's going to protect. What he wants to become. Do I get that right?
No. Like he does. He decides to protect Creation King because he doesn't want to be Creation King.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He doesn't want to be
that too.
Yeah.
He says, I don't want. But I do know that they were trying to, they were auditioning different people to try to be Creation King, and it
right,
kept failing. that was kind of funny because they all tried it and it didn't work, and then that's when they figured in
pick them up and throw them back.
Yeah.
Creation King would be like,
pick them
nope,
up and throw them back.
Yeah,
and but I thought that was a pretty cool that transformation that happened at that nursing home where he decided, and then him saying, she goes, "I'm going to kill you," and he goes, "Yeah, I deserve it," for all these years, because he's the one that killed. I forget that young lady's name that they were both in love with. Right?
Yukari.
Yeah.
Yukari.
Well, yeah, he kills Yukari, and then he kills Aoi's mom.
Yes,
and that's really what she's really wanting to.
Oh yeah, she's
take him out.
Yeah, it's because he killed her mother. Well, and
savagely.
Killed.
Oh
yeah, it was brutal, and he really is the reason why her father died, because he turned her father into a kaijin and sent him after her. So yeah, if anybody, I mean, she's got more than enough reasons to kill.
Oh yes,
Belginia in this one for sure.
That's
I tell you what, it just makes you want to go watch it again. I'm just telling you.
Oh, dude, like
crazy.
it's a phenomenal show, man, and I think we've talked about it enough. Let's find out what we thought about it when it comes to the rating. Stompdown rating time. All right, so after we've discussed this one, man, I honestly, I'm gonna be honest with you two. I thought your all's rating was gonna be a lot higher.
And the more I talk about it, the more I think, I'm a little low. I'm a little low.
A little low, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like,
what helped with me is I was able to ask the trivia master here all the questions that I had, and now that I've answered them, now that he's answered them, it makes more sense, and I want my stomp rating to go up. But you know what? It's
already in, so we stick with it.
Well, hey, I mean, it's in, but are you sticking with it or are you raising it?
Well, I'm gonna step it up one.
You're gonna step it up.
I'm not going to the top, but I'll step it up one.
Yeah, I'll step it up one too.
Yeah, 1, 2. All right. Yeah. So, well, then that's going to take us overall. When we divide this in my head real quick, it's going to take us right there. That's going to take us
4.5.
It gives us a total 4.5 out of 5.
Yeah.
I was going to put the camera on me so you guys can see me talking. 4.5 out of 5 on the Stompdown rating. Originally, I mean, I gave this a solid 5, dude. It is that. You're not going to get better than this, other than a few select shows. I mean, the original Ultraman, I'd put Ultra 7 up there. The original Kamen Rider Black. I mean, that's it, dude. You're right. You want to go watch it again.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's kind of like the way you are with Titanic. I mean, you're so
absolutely not. Wait, what just happened here? How did we go from something that's amazing to freaking Titanic?
Look, Mark, it's not like Titanic. It's like Godzilla '98.
You got it. You got it. No, you can see the look in his eye.
Where did we just go? What just happened here? Like, how did you do that? Explain yourself, sir.
Well, I was just thinking, what a salesman you are to get us to bump it up one.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, dang, this is how he is with Titanic.
This is what, and he's going to have to admit to this because I will. I remember being so hyped when G98 was going to come out. I couldn't wait to see it. I was excited. Man, we're going to get a Godzilla movie in America. Man, this is going to be the best. This is going to be the best. And then
we were let down. He wasn't. He stayed right with it.
That is the biggest load of crap.
Black Sun, man.
I was Black Sun all
Black Sun went and beheaded the whole movie for me. I mean, just...
No, man. Yes. So, no. 98's crap, Titanic's crap, Black Sun, 4.5 out of 5.
Yes.
You need to watch this show.
Deserving.
Oh, absolutely.
Because even if you're a horror fan, there's enough gore in there for you.
Oh, man.
That
gore,
you would
monsters.
enjoy it. If you're an action movie fan, there's something in there for you there too. And then there's also, like, if you like monsters, this is what this show's all about. There's plenty of creatures in this, more than enough creatures in this movie to keep you happy. So it's got just about a little bit of everything. Even if you like kung fu movies, there's plenty of martial arts in this one too. So it's got a little bit of everything for everybody.
Yeah, it absolutely does. So, All right, well, there you go from us, man. This one was a little bit longer because, again, we got 10 episodes we had to kind of brush through on this one. We want to get it all in there because it's worth it, and we highly recommend it. You can check out Kamen Rider Black Sun on Amazon. It is available for you all to watch there, or any of those watching who have access to my Plex. It's on the Plex there as well. But check it out, 4.5, man. This one's fantastic. Again, no trivia tonight because, like I said, we had to get a little deep into the history of Kamen Rider. Oh, and another thing, too, I wanted to show you guys, actually, just a cool little thing here. Here is a VHS copy of the first 2 episodes of Masked Rider. This is actually Kamen Rider Black RX is what they used. So when Saban, who did Power Rangers and Beetleborgs and VR Troopers, that were bringing all this over, they wanted to obviously bring Masked Rider over, Kamen Rider over because of the popularity. And so they bought the footage, the rights to Kamen Rider Black RX. Completely changed the rest of the story, though, and ruined it. It only lasted 1 season. But I did have, the actual first 2 episodes, so the pilot, mini-series of Masked Rider, which was Kamen Rider Black RX, which is pretty cool in the collection because it's well-deserved, even though that version's crap. So, but all right. So that is that for that one. We have got some cool episodes coming up for you guys next month. The first one, of course, we continue down our Showa Gamera trail, and this time it's going to get very interesting because we're going to find out what happens when our giant terrapin friend gets stabbed and then impregnated by a prehistoric dinosaur. It's going to get really weird. No, wait. We have Giron next. I'm sorry. No, that's Geiger.
I see you already gave it all away.
My bad. So, my bad. The next one is Giron. Gamera versus Giron. So he's going to fight a knife-headed prehistoric dinosaur that likes to throw ninja stars, and you've got a silver Gyaos, and it's going to get very, very interesting. And then next month, of course, we have told you guys we're bringing my son Gavin on for his first one. Since we've kicked open the door to tokusatsu, it is time for us to do an Ultraman movie, and we are doing Mega Monster Battle Galaxy, Ultra Galaxy, the first appearance of Ultraman Zero, who is Gavin's favorite, so he's going to join us for that episode, and then we'll continue rocking it out. September, of course, we have still got a couple Showa films. In September, we'll do Gamera versus Jiger. We might turn that into a double feature with Zigra to knock those 2 out because September 7th, we finally get Gamera Rebirth being released on Netflix. And that's why we're doing this. So, and they just dropped the second trailer. Head over to the Monster Review Stompdown Facebook page or Instagram where you can see the new trailer for Gamera Rebirth. It looks fantastic, especially now that they showed all the kaijus. Like, what did you guys think watching that today? Now that we see them all.
Oh, yeah. That was awesome.
Definitely something to look forward to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty stoked.
But I've been to see, I'm cynical because I've seen so many great trailers of that Netflix will put out, and it looks so good, and then I watch it and I'm disappointed. I hope this one breaks the trend.
I think it will, man. They interviewed
the
director not too long ago, and because they worked on the Godzilla trilogy, anime trilogy that Ruben loves so much.
Yeah.
And when they approached him about how they wanted to do the Godzilla things, he was like, "I want to turn this into a wrestling match. I want this to be Godzilla Pro Wrestling." And of course, Toho was like, "Well, that's not going to happen." And we got what we got.
Oh.
And so when Katakawa came to him about doing the Gamera Rebirth, same thing. I want to do a Gamera wrestling match. I want this to be pro wrestling, both Gamera and monsters. And they're like, "Okay, cool, do it." So that's what.
And that's what it looks like. And you know what? I mean, I'm hope from what I've seen so far, it looks like it's going to be.
The
good.
mail girl keeps calling Lorax.
Oh man! And another thing, the Godzilla trailer came out too, right? We didn't talk about that in the last show.
Oh yeah, no, we didn't. The teaser trailer for Godzilla -1, the official name of the movie, is out.
Yeah.
Oh man, it looks sweet.
Looks incredible.
It
looks incredible.
I've heard a lot of complaints on it when it comes to online because people are like, "Oh, well, this, the suit looks like the one from the ride because it's from the guy who created the ride." Like, of course it is. The same dude. I mean, that's why it looks so similar. I think it looks fantastic, and I think it's.
I do too. I mean, I like it, so I'm excited for that. Here, what's that? Early next year?
No,
December.
that's
December.
No, well, December for
December.
us. But it actually releases November 3rd this year. They'll be released on Godzilla's birthday in Japan. But then we get it stateside December 1st.
Right.
And then a couple months down the road, March 14th, we get Godzilla X Kong. So there's a lot happening in the Godzilla world.
I was going to ask about that. Does the Hollywood strike, is that going to touch any of that?
It has. I don't know yet because it hasn't changed the release date.
I know it's
already done. The movie's done.
But it's affected like some of the Comic-Cons and all that stuff. The groups they've had. G-Fest. They've backed off some of that stuff.
Here's what's going on with the Comic-Con stuff. Okay. And Comic-Con just happened. The reason why Legendary had to pull out and some other people had to pull out of their panels, especially because they were going to get a lot of Godzilla X Kong. We were actually supposed to get a lot about Dune 2 and Godzilla X Kong. Is part of the writer strike is the SAG group. Okay, that's a group of the people that's part of the union. Okay, in their contracts, they cannot discuss current or upcoming projects during a strike.
Right. Yeah.
So that clause in their contract is why, because so many SAG people were involved in the movie, they had to back out of that.
Gotcha.
So the movie's done and ready for release.
Oh, then it shouldn't. Yeah, unless there's going to be rewrites. If it's done, then
no reshoots,
because
nothing.
actors are on strike, actors are on strike, and the writers
and actors,
but not the special effects people, not the should be clear.
Yeah, the movie itself's done, good to go. There's no reshoots. If they push it back it'll depend on the length of the strike. It'll only be so that they can get a little bit more promotional time, which hopefully won't happen. You know what I mean? But as far as right now, there's been no news that we're getting pushed back from March 14th. So the next 6 months or the next year is going to be huge for Godzilla. Because now what we did get from Legendary because we were able to, thankfully, during SDC, during Comic-Con, was an upcoming graphic novel, Godzilla X Kong the Hunted. That's going to be coming out. It's going to be it looks like, I'm assuming like a prequel to Godzilla X Kong. So that's going to be pretty freaking sweet. Can't wait to see what Toho does with Godzilla -1. I'm super stoked for this one. There's a lot coming, man. We got new Gamer coming down the pipe. Then 2 months later, we got new Godzilla coming. A couple months later, we got more new Godzilla coming. So, I mean, there's a lot happening. Monsters are back for sure.
Oh, yeah. Well, then you got them coming out in the comic books against
That's
Superman.
Right. That's right. The MonsterVerse, Godzilla and Kong are going up against the Justice League.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
I saw that. Yeah.
Crazy. And I don't care if it happens or not, but I want the variant cover of the Batman mech fighting Godzilla. Dude, come on. If I get Batman versus Godzilla, I'm done at that point. I'm sold. I don't even care who wins in that one. You know what I mean? So
it'll be good.
Oh,
it is.
There you go, Mark. Once again.
Oh, yeah.
Slighted Godzilla.
I love them both, man.
We'll stand strong, Ruben. Me and you will stand Godzilla.
That's right.
The king.
Godzilla.
Hey,
and he'll be saying maybe Batman, maybe Godzilla, maybe
come on.
Batman.
I'm okay with it. I'm a happy camper. I'm happy. That's a win-win situation for me when it comes to those two. You know what I mean? So I'm cool with it.
And Batman won't be able to cheat like he did with Superman.
Oh.
He didn't
Batman
cheat.
won't
He's
be
just
able to.
smarter.
He
just knows better.
He was able to cheat.
Ruben's one of those guys. Okay, Ruben's one of those guys. I got my buddy Tyler. I mean, we always have these bouts of who's better. The hero, Batman or Superman, and he's like, it doesn't matter, man. There's a meme going around about Batman, having time to create the suit, and it would take Superman 1 second to inject Batman with polio or something like that.
Oh, jeez.
I'm he always brings that up. I'm like, whatever, dude. It don't matter. I'm like,
look, for the record, I'm way more of a Batman fan than I am a Superman fan.
Absolutely.
I am.
Me three.
As a kid, always. But he still cheated.
Man, no, he didn't. He just knew how to outdo it.
And I will say this will be controversial. I think Affleck is the best Batman.
I agree with you. I agree with you. Please don't say Keaton. I'm so tired of hearing about Keaton.
Okay.
I mean, I like Keaton and everything, but if you're going to ask me if you're going to, from what I read in the comic books, okay, that's what I go off of. He's the closest to the Batman.
Oh, there's no question there. Affleck is Frank Miller's Batman. He is the Batman of Frank Miller from page to film. There's no doubt. And I went through that little moment there, man, where I was like, dude, it's Affleck, Batfleck all the way, and I'm a Keaton Batman because that was my Batman. And, man, I don't know.
I was Adam West for the longest time.
Oh, well, there you go.
I'm on the fence, dude, because, and I know, and I won't get into the controversial part of this, but so The Flash came out, and I've seen The Flash. So I've got to see Affleck and Keaton on screen together, you know what I mean, in the same film. And after seeing The Flash, I honestly didn't give two craps about the Flash in the movie. I'm just going to be honest with everybody. I could care less. I didn't give a crap about Supergirl. Didn't give a crap about the Flash. It was all about Batman. And, dude, it's all about freaking Keaton. Like, after I got done watching that movie, I'm like, man.
I haven't even seen it yet.
How could I ever doubt, like, Keaton?
Well, here's my thing, and I may be wrong, and I may, just maybe, I don't know. I think Keaton's Batman would have been better if Nicholson wasn't the Joker.
So that same scenario as Christian Bale.
Well, I think that Nicholson, he was a lighter Joker.
Yeah.
Okay, and then probably from Christian Bale
comic book
and
Joker. From the comic book Joker. I mean, the comic book Joker was a freaking evil.
Yeah.
Of all the DC villains, I mean, Joker.
Yeah. Nicholson definitely played like the '60s era,
and I think that that definitely hurt Keaton's Batman, in my opinion. Okay,
I can see what you're saying there.
But I think that part is probably the only thing that I didn't like about. It was more a G-rated Batman with Keaton.
Yeah, it was
closer to an R-rated with Affleck.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I think a lot had to do with the characters he had to deal with. Each one of them had to deal with was a lot different.
Well, I tell you what, after you watch The Flash, your minds will change when it comes to. Now, again, I will absolutely say though, when it comes to the Batmen, that we have, Keaton and Affleck are it. Like, I'm not a Christian Bale fan of Batman. I definitely am not a Kilmer or Clooney fan. I put Adam West above those three. Like.
I agree. Christian Bale, I liked him, but I agree with you. He's Affleck and Keaton.
Oh yeah, that's it. That's the Batman. And when you see them together in this movie, it's like yes, Now I will say though, there was some moments in that movie where I was just like, holy crap! Like that's the greatest fan service ever. When you get the moment where there's a moment where the fabric of time in the multiverse starts to break, and this is what ultimately the Flash has got to fix, and you start to see the other Earths on the other universes. And the first one you see freaking George Reeves.
Wow.
Standing there as Superman. Wow. And I was just like, dude, like it gave me goosebumps. And as soon as it went from that Earth, it went to Christopher. And you got to see Christopher. And they're all looking at this because they can see from their world something's happening. And then Christopher stands there. And not only that, man, as Christopher's standing there, going from seeing George, seeing his dad, to seeing Christopher. And I can't remember the actress's name, dang it, but the girl who played Supergirl in the Supergirl movie during the Christopher Reeve era, she shows up and flies and lands right next to him. I was
Slater?
What?
Oh, what's her name? Yeah, wow.
Oh, dude, really? I was like, this is unbelievable. And then it goes
Helen.
Okay, now, so are you just going to sit here and tell us this whole movie?
I am. You open the door. So,
oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert
I'm
for
fine
everybody.
with that. I want to see. Now I want to see it.
The moment freaking happened, dude. Like, I didn't think it could get any better. You're seeing, because, I'm not a Superman fan, but if I'm going to pick Superman, I'm going back to the Reeves. The Reeves that's Superman. Christopher, George, don't give a crap anybody past. I know you like Henry Cavill.
I do.
Witcher, but that's it. The Reeves, that's Superman. But then it happens, man. Like, it goes, I'm like, okay, cool. I guess we're going to see Henry Cavill next. Nope. All of a sudden, you're on a dark planet. The next world they show in this, and this massive spider monster shows up, and flying right in front of him is a long-haired Superman that you don't see the face of, and he just whoops this thing's rear end and then turns around, and it's freaking Nicolas Cage.
Oh my!
Lost it, dude.
Stop no more. I don't want to hear no more. I have not seen the Flash, man. Don't
Oh my god!
Don't say any more. Don't say any more.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. But after seeing that, man. Affleck and I know we're a monster movie show, but Affleck and Keaton are the best. Batman,
you know what this reminds me of, Ruben? This reminds me of the night he was so excited he called me on the phone because I had never seen the Titanic, and he wanted to tell me it'd be a spoiler.
And he goes, I got to tell you all about it.
I got to tell you this movie I saw.
Never freaking happened. So anyway, man, thank you all so much. We love you all. Titanic sucks. And make sure go join us on the Facebook and the Instagram, man. Become part of the crew. Monday nights we do the Underdogs, which I totally forgot to do tonight. I'll do that after we get done recording. Wednesdays Ruben brings us some awesome music selection with songs that are related to monster movies or related to monsters in one way or another, and he's knocked out of the park with that. Fridays, we do our Friday Night Fights, where right now we're putting two monster movies up against each other, and we decide, as a group, what's the better monster movie. So
we'll get that knife out of your back soon, Sarge, just as soon as we can.
Whatever.
Just as soon as we can.
And again, man, go check out our buddies and give me back my action movies, give me back my horror movies, and our buddy, and give me back my pro wrestling. And then Pete and the crew over at Good Beer Bad Movie Night. We love them all so much.
Yes.
And we love you guys. Y'all have a good night.
Good night.
Night, y'all.